Thank you, Admiral, for coming to talk to us, especially at this time. In addition to
sorry, please identify yourself.
Pete Van Ness, I'm a visiting fellow in international relations. In addition to the structural situation of the so-called Thucydides trap, since the election of Donald Trump, it's true that we live in extraordinary times. And at risk of being blunt, I would like to pose this question to you. If, when you return to your command next week, you were to receive an order from the Commander-in-Chief, the President of the United States, to make a nuclear attack on China, would you do it?
So far, these are yes and no answers. The answer would be yes. So every member of the U.S. military has sworn an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and to obey the officers and the President of the United States as the Commander-in-Chief appointed over us. So this is core to the American democracy. And anytime you have a military that is moving away from a focus and an allegiance to civilian control, then we really have significant problems.
Thank you. That's an answer that, of course, worries us. And may I do one follow-up, and that is...
We'll take question rather than comment. Thank you.
Is this question one that is being discussed among military leaders in the United States at your level of command?
So I really think it's a different question. The question is, what is the appropriate application of military power? And we live in a United States, I'm speaking as an American, we live in a democracy. And that discussion is a robust discussion that started when I first became aware of it and continues today. I referred to it in my prepared comments, and that is the application of military power, which is core to, I think, to what your question is. But there's opportunity. This is an example, and what Rory has teed up here. There's an opportunity to have this type of broad discussion with individuals of alternative views, of other individuals, to generate that dialogue.
Thanks for the question. We've got a couple over here in this corner. We'll start with, I think it's David Rowe, and then the gentleman in front of him.
Thanks, Rory. David Rowe from the Sydney Morning Herald and Age newspapers, Admiral. I know we're having a media roundtable in a couple of hours from now, so I risk making you sick of the sight of me before we even start that. But I'm over-eager for you just to unpack a phrase that you used in your speech. You said, in a region dominated by the maritime environment, upholding the rules-based order and inclusive security network requires constant reaffirmation by Indo-Asia Pacific nations and their naval forces. Can you define constant reaffirmation and what it would look like from Australia's point of view in particular?
Well, I won't, and I'll go back to the previous question. The most important thing that I do as the Pacific Fleet Commander is build relationships. The most important byproduct of that relationship is trust. It's also the most perishable element of any relationship. So if you're not constantly building trust, there's always this sense of, is the commitment still there from an individual perspective? I think that's some of the challenges that were brought out in the previous question. So it's that it is very important, and this is beyond the scope of any one country. It's very important that we continue to act and understand the value that's been brought by this rules-based system. Because if we take it for granted, then we're in peril of headed down another path and end up in a place where our ability to take, from a military perspective, my specialty is security, but security for security's sake has little value. It's transitioning that security into stability, and that occurs through actions, and that actions is governed by that international rules-based order. So people are concerned about how military power may be used. That's why it's so important that we continue to demonstrate that from a national perspective. In an international construct, I would suggest here in the Pacific, mine is more of a regional construct. so that we can show that connection between security and stability. And then it's up over to the whole of government. So when I talked about the importance of freedom of navigation, not just from a naval perspective, from the diplomatic information, granted naval is a part of military and economic, that's the DIME construct. It needs to be across all of those domains. And the challenges in one domain need to be thought of in the context of what similar challenges bring in the other domains as well. So that's the security to stability piece. It's that connection between DIME that connects the stability to prosperity. Because if nothing is done with stability, if you don't act on those opportunities, prosperity is not going to follow on. So it's a whole of government approach in my mind. It's not just the military piece, and that's what I meant with everyone has an opportunity, not just here in the region, but broadly. And too oftentimes I can't go anywhere without having a China-centric discussion. This is not a China-centric discussion. I mean, look at Europe and the challenges being faced in Europe with this recent discussion of a Chinese-Russian bilateral exercise in the Black Sea. In my mind, entirely appropriate, well within the bounds of international rules. Look at, you talk about the US election, look at Brexit, look at other elections around the world. We are in a, if I'd had this discussion a year ago and someone were to ask me, I'm glad I didn't get asked this question, tell us where you think we'll be a year from now. I would have been so off the mark, so please don't ask that question. But what's more important are what are the activities that take us to that destination that we all want to arrive at collectively? What are those actions that are required? Part of those actions are the reaffirmation of that rules-based order that has brought such great prosperity to the Indo-Asia Pacific.